The unexpected invitation, Victoria Sterling stood in the marble kitchen of the Cross mansion. Her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wearing jeans and a soft blue sweater. She was helping 7-year-old Emma Cross with her breakfast. When the sound of expensive dress shoes clicking against the floor made them both look up, Damien Cross appeared in the doorway, tall and imposing in his perfectly tailored charcoal suit. His jaw was set in that familiar stern expression that had graced countless magazine covers. At 32, he had built Cross Technologies into a global empire. But this morning, he looked particularly tense. "Emma, sweetheart, can you finish your cereal in the dining room?" "I need to speak with Victoria," he said, his voice carrying that authoritative tone that made boardrooms fall silent. Emma giggled and grabbed her bowl. "Are you in trouble, Vicky?" She whispered loudly enough for her father to hear. Victoria ruffled the little girl's hair. "Go on, princess. Save some strawberries for me." When they were alone, Damien's piercing blue eyes fixed on Victoria. She had been working as Emma's nanny for 8 months now, and these private conversations still made her nervous. Not because she feared him, but because something about his intensity always seemed to see right through her carefully constructed walls. "There's been a change of plans for tonight," he began, crossing his arms over his broad chest. "You're coming with me to the annual Cross Technologies Investor Gala." Victoria blinked, setting down the coffee mug she'd been holding. "I'm sorry, what?" "I'm hired to take care of Emma, not to attend fancy parties. Tonight, you'll be doing both," he said matter-of-factly. "A usual companion canceled last minute, and I need someone there. You're here, you're available. Problem solved." She stared at him in disbelief. "Mr. Cross, with all due respect, I don't think you can just order me to be your date like I'm some kind of accessory you can rent for the evening." Something flickered in his eyes at her defiant tone. Most people didn't challenge Damien Cross, and Victoria had noticed he seemed almost amused when she did. "It's not a request, Victoria. I'm paying you well enough to be flexible with your duties. Besides," he paused, studying her face, "you might actually enjoy yourself. Enjoy being paraded around as your mysterious companion while everyone whispers about who the nanny thinks she is. I'll pass. Thanks." Damien stepped closer, and Victoria caught a hint of his cologne, something expensive and subtly masculine. "You're more than just a nanny, and we both know it. You have a master's degree in international business from Columbia. You speak 4 languages fluently, and you left a promising career at Sterling Consulting to take care of children. The question is why?" Victoria's cheeks flushed. She hadn't expected him to dig into her background so thoroughly. "My personal reasons for career changes are none of your business." "Maybe not," he conceded, "but your intelligence is exactly what I need tonight. This isn't just a party, Victoria. It's a carefully orchestrated business event where every conversation matters. I need someone who can hold her own, not just smile and look pretty." Despite herself, Victoria felt a flutter of intrigue. She had missed the intellectual stimulation of high-stakes business dealings. "And you think I can do that?" "I know you can. The question is whether you're brave enough to try." It was a challenge, and they both knew it. Victoria had always been unable to resist a good challenge. "Fine," she said finally. "But I have conditions. First, Emma comes first. If she needs me during the evening, I leave. Second, I'm not pretending to be something I'm not. If people ask what I do, I'm telling them the truth. Third, you owe me an explanation for why this is so important." Damien nodded slowly. "Agreed, be ready by 7. "I've arranged for a stylist to come by this afternoon." "Stylist, Mr. Cross, I'm perfectly capable of dressing myself." "I'm sure you are, but tonight you're representing Cross Technologies. Consider it part of the uniform." After he left, Victoria stood in the kitchen feeling like she'd just agreed to jump out of a plane without checking if her parachute was properly packed. Emma bounced back in, strawberry juice staining her school uniform. "Daddy looked different when he was talking to you," she observed with the startling perceptiveness of children. "Different how, sweetheart?" Like he was actually listening, instead of just waiting for his turn to talk. The transformation at 3 o'clock, the stylist arrived. Monica Chen was a petite woman with an artistic flair and an eye for elegance. She took one look at Victoria and clapped her hands together. "Honey, you're going to be absolutely stunning. Mr. Cross has excellent taste. This wasn't exactly my idea, Victoria muttered. But she allowed Monica to guide her upstairs to the guest room that had been converted into a temporary salon. Trust me, dear. I've worked with a lot of Mr. Cross's companions over the years. You're different. Different how? You're not trying to impress him? That's refreshing. The transformation took 3 hours. Monica worked magic with subtle makeup that enhanced Victoria's natural beauty rather than masking it. Her dark hair was styled in an elegant updo with soft tendrils framing her face. The dress Monica had chosen was a deep emerald green silk that hugged Victoria's curves perfectly. Without being overly revealing, it was sophisticated, classy, and undeniably expensive. When Victoria looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked like she belonged in Damien's world, but more importantly, she felt confident and beautiful. "Hey, Mr. Cross is going?" "To swallow his tongue," Monica said with satisfaction. At 7 sharp, Victoria made her way down the grand staircase. Damien was waiting in the foyer, adjusting his black tie. When he looked up and saw her, he went completely still. "Is this?" He started, then seemed to lose his words. "Acceptable?" Victoria supplied with a slight smile. "Breathtaking," he said quietly, and for a moment the carefully maintained distance between them seemed to disappear. Emma appeared at the top of the stairs in her pajamas. "Vicky, you look like a princess." "Daddy, doesn't she look like a princess?" "She does indeed," Damien said, his eyes never leaving Victoria's face. "Are you ready?" Victoria nodded, accepting the wrap Monica draped over her shoulders. As they walked toward the door, she felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness that reminded her of her first day at her old job, when everything had seemed possible. The ride to the hotel was quiet, the city lights blurring past the windows of Damien's sleek black car. Victoria found herself stealing glances at him, noting how the streetlights played across his sharp features. There was something different about him tonight, a tension that went beyond normal prevent nerves. "Nervous?" she asked finally. "I don't get nervous," he replied automatically, then caught her skeptical look. "But tonight is important. There are some major investors flying in from overseas, and we're announcing a new partnership that could change the direction of the company. And you need arm candy for that? I need someone I can trust to handle whatever the evening throws." "At us?" "The business world can be vicious, Victoria. People will try to use any perceived weakness against you. And showing up with your daughter's nanny is a sign of strength?" Damien turned to look at her fully. "Showing up with an intelligent, accomplished woman who isn't afraid to speak her mind." "Absolutely." It's a grand ballroom at the Meridian Hotel. Was a glittering spectacle of wealth and power. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over women in designer gowns and men in perfectly tailored tuxedos. The guest list read like a who's who of the tech and investment world. Victoria felt a momentary flutter of intimidation as they entered, but Damien's hand on the small of her back was steadying. She straightened her shoulders and reminded herself that she belonged here just as much as anyone else. "Damien, darling." A woman's voice cut through the ambient noise like a knife. Victoria turned to see a stunning blonde approaching them, her red dress leaving little to the imagination. This had to be Sophia Blackthorne, Damien's ex-fiancée, and the daughter of one of his biggest investors. "Sophia," Damien acknowledged coolly. "You look well." Sophia's calculating green eyes fixed on Victoria with unmistakable hostility. "And who is this lovely creature?" "I don't believe we've been introduced." "Victoria Sterling," Victoria said, extending her hand with a confident smile. "And you must be Sophia. I've heard so much about you." The slight emphasis on so much wasn't lost on either woman. Sophia's smile became razor-sharp. "How interesting. And what do you do, Victoria?" "I work closely with Damien and his family," Victoria replied smoothly, technically telling the truth while revealing nothing. "How closely?" Sophia's tone was honey over broken glass. Before Victoria could respond, a distinguished older man approached their group. "Damien, my boy, you must introduce me to your companion. James Fletcher. Meet Victoria Sterling. Victoria James is one of our most valued investors." James took Victoria's hand and kissed it gallantly, enchanted. "Tell me, my dear, what brings you into our Damien's orbit?" "Mutual respect and shared Interests, Victoria replied, her business training kicking in. I find Mr. Cross's vision for sustainable technology innovation quite compelling. James raised an eyebrow, clearly impressed. Indeed, and what's your background in the field? I spent several years in consulting, focusing on emerging market strategies and sustainable development initiatives. The intersection of profit and purpose is fascinating, don't you think? As Victoria spoke, she could feel Damien's eyes on her, but she was in her element now. The intellectual challenge energized her, and she found herself genuinely enjoying the conversation. This was what she had missed, what she had given up when she took the nanny position. But as the evening progressed, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this night than Damien had told her. Revelations and complications, the evening unfolded like a chess match. With Victoria navigating conversations with venture capitalists, tech moguls, and industry leaders, she found herself genuinely impressed by Damien's business acumen as she watched him work the room, but she also noticed the calculating looks, whispered conversations that stopped when they approached. During a brief moment when Damien was pulled away by his CFO, Sophia materialized beside Victoria at the bar. You're quite good at this, Sophia said, her voice deceptively casual. Playing the mysterious companion? But I wonder how long you can keep up the act. I'm not acting, Victoria replied, accepting a glass of champagne from the bartender. I'm simply being myself. The nanny who just happens to have an MBA from Columbia? Come now, Victoria. We both know there's more to your story. The question is, what are you really after? Victoria turned to face Sophia fully. I'm not after anything. Kai here because Damien asked me to be. Damien, Sophia repeated, her green eyes glittering. How quickly you've moved to first names. Do you know why his last companion canceled tonight? Victoria remained silent, though her pulse quickened. Because I told her exactly what kind of man she was dealing with. Damien Cross doesn't do relationships, Victoria. He does arrangements, business transactions. Even his engagement to me was more about merging our father's companies than any real affection. Then why do you care what he does now? Sophia's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something raw and vulnerable. Because I made the mistake of falling in love with him anyway, and I can see you're making the same mistake. Before Victoria could respond, Damien returned, his hand finding the small of her back possessively. Sophia, I hope you're not monopolizing my date. Just getting acquainted, Sophia said sweetly. Victoria was telling me about her fascinating career transition. Damien's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Victoria, there's someone I'd like you to meet. As he guided her away, Victoria caught the triumphant look in Sophia's eyes. The seed of doubt had been planted, and they all knew it. The someone turned out to be Kenji Nakamura, the head of a major Japanese tech consortium. The conversation was intense, focused on Cross Technology's expansion into Asian markets. Victoria found herself drawn into the discussion, her consulting background proving invaluable as she offered insights into cultural considerations and market strategies. Your companion is quite knowledgeable, Nakamura said to Damien in Japanese, clearly not expecting Victoria to understand. She's full of surprises, Victoria replied in fluent Japanese, earning a look of genuine surprise from the businessman and something that might have been pride from Damien. The conversation continued for another hour, with Victoria serving as an unofficial cultural liaison. By the time they excused themselves, she could see the excitement in Damien's eyes. That was incredible, he said, as they moved toward the dance floor. Nakamura was impressed. You may have just sealed a $50 million deal. Is that why you really brought me tonight? Victoria asked, Did you know he would be here? Damien's expression grew serious. I brought you because I needed someone I could trust. Someone who wouldn't try to use the information they overheard for their own gain. And how do you know you can trust me? Because in 8 months, you've never once asked me for anything beyond what you needed to take care of Emma. You've never tried to leverage your position. Never seemed impressed by the wealth or the power. You see me as a person, not a bank account. The music swelled around them as other couples took to the dance floor. Damien extended his hand. Dance with me? Victoria hesitated for a moment, then placed her hand in his. As they moved together, she was acutely aware of his strength, the way he led confidently, but never forced her steps. The chemistry between them was undeniable, electric. "Why did you really leave Sterling Consulting?" he asked quietly. Victoria stiffened slightly. "I told you. That's personal. We're past that now, don't you think? After tonight, we're past a lot of things." She looked up into his eyes, seeing something there that made her chest tighten. There was a client, a pharmaceutical company. They wanted me to help them navigate regulations in developing countries, find ways to cut corners on safety testing. When I refused, they made it clear that my career in consulting was over. "So you chose your principles over your career." I chose to be able to look at myself in the mirror, taking care of Emma, helping her grow and learn. It's honest work. It matters. And now I'm confused, she admitted. Tonight reminded me what I loved about that world, the intellectual challenge, the feeling of making a real impact. But it also reminded me why I left. Their dance was interrupted by a commotion near the entrance. A group of reporters had somehow made it past security, cameras flashing as they pushed into the ballroom. Victoria saw the moment Damien's expression changed, becoming hard and protective. "This way," he said, guiding her toward a side exit. But they were too late. The cameras had found them, and Victoria heard the questions being shouted. "Mr. Cross, who is your mystery date? Is this the new Mrs. Cross? Are you ready to comment on the Sterling Industries connection?" Victoria's blood ran cold. Sterling Industries. Her family's company, the one she'd walked away from 5 years ago. The one her father had built into a pharmaceutical empire through. The exact kind of corner-cutting she'd refused to be part of. As they escaped to Damien's car, Victoria's mind raced. This couldn't be a coincidence. Nothing in Damien Cross's world ever was. "You know," she said quietly, as they drove through the city streets, "you know who I am? Who my father is?" Damien's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Victoria, how long have you known?" "From the beginning. From the moment I received your resume." The betrayal hit her like a physical blow. "So this was all what? Some elaborate scheme to get to my father? To Sterling Industries?" "No," Damien said firmly. "That's not what this is." "Then what is it, Damien? Because I'm starting to think Sophia was right. Everything with you is a transaction." He pulled the car over, turning to face her. "What happened tonight? What's happening between us? That's real. But you're right, there are things I haven't told you, things I need to tell you, such as the fact that your father is trying to acquire Cross Technologies, and he's using every dirty trick in the book to do it." Secrets and choices. The silence in the car was deafening. Victoria stared at Damien, trying to process what he'd just revealed. "My father is trying to acquire Cross Technologies. The past 6 months, he's been buying up shares through shell companies, pressuring our smaller investors, spreading rumors about our financial stability. He's been very careful, very methodical, and you think I'm part of it. It wasn't a question. I thought you might be initially." Victoria Sterling, daughter of pharmaceutical giant Charles Sterling, suddenly shows up wanting to work as a nanny. It seemed too convenient. Victoria felt sick. "So you hired me to keep an eye on me. I hired you because Emma liked you. Because, despite my suspicions, I could see you were genuine with her. And because I wanted to understand what Charles Sterling's daughter was really doing, and now you know. Now I know you're nothing like your father. I know you've walked away from his world because you couldn't stomach the corruption. I know you've been sending half your salary to a scholarship fund for underprivileged kids. And I know you read Emma bedtime stories with the same passion you brought to that business discussion tonight." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "Been watching me this whole time. I've been falling in love with you this whole time." The words hung in the air between them. Victoria's breath caught, but before she could respond, Damien's phone buzzed with an urgent message. "We need to get back to the house," he said grimly. "Now." The drive back to the mansion was tense. Victoria's mind reeled with questions, but Damien's focus was entirely on the road, his jaw set in that familiar hard line. They arrived to find police cars in the driveway. Victoria's heart stopped. "Emma, she's fine," Damien said quickly, but his voice was strained. "The security system was breached. Someone got into the house. They rushed inside to find Emma safe with Mrs. Patterson, the housekeeper, but visibly shaken. "Daddy," she cried, running into Damien's arms. "Someone was in my room." "What happened?" Victoria asked Mrs. Patterson. "I was in the kitchen when..." The alarm went off. By the time security arrived, whoever it was had gotten away. They went through Mr. Cross's study and Emma's room. "My room?" Victoria's blood ran cold. Why would they go through Emma's room? The police detective in charge pulled Damien aside. Victoria couldn't hear the conversation, but she could see the tension in Damien's shoulders, the way his hands clenched into fists. "What aren't you telling me?" she demanded when he returned. "Emma's room wasn't the target. Yours was. They went through your things, your computer, your personal files." But why would Victoria stopped, the pieces clicking into place? "They think I'm feeding you information about my father? Or they think you're feeding him information about me?" Victoria sank into a chair, overwhelmed. "This is about the acquisition. Someone thinks I'm a corporate spy." "Victoria," Damien said gently, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Haven't I been... When did you last speak to your father?" Victoria looked up at him, seeing the doubt in his eyes despite his earlier declaration 2 years ago at my mother's funeral. He told me I was a disappointment and that I'd thrown away everything he'd built for me. I haven't spoken to him since." "And you had no idea about the acquisition attempts?" "None. I deliberately stay away from anything related to Sterling Industries. I don't even read the business news anymore because I don't want to know what he's doing." Damien studied her face, then nodded. "I believe you, but someone doesn't. Someone thinks you're the key to getting to me or to your father. Either way, you're in danger." The reality of the situation hit her. "I need to leave. Tonight. I need to disappear before this gets any worse." "No," Damien's voice was firm. "Running won't solve anything. It'll just make you look guilty. And staying will make me a target. Emma could have been hurt tonight, Damien. I won't be responsible for that. And we fight back. Together." Victoria looked at him in disbelief. "You want me to help you fight my own father?" "I want you to help me fight for what's right. For Emma's future. For the company I built from. Nothing. For the employees who depend on Cross Technologies for their livelihoods. And what about us? What about what you said in the car?" Damien moved closer, his eyes intense. "What I said was true. I love you, Victoria, but I need to know where you stand. Stand with Emma. I stand with doing what's right, but I won't be used as a weapon against my father, no matter what he's done. Then we find another way." Victoria was quiet for a long moment, thinking, there might be a way, but it would require me to do something I swore I'd never do. What? I'd have to go back into that world. I'd have to contact my father. Damien's expression darkened. "Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. It's the only way to end this. If I can convince him that I'm not part of whatever game he's playing, if I can make him believe I'm still the disappointed daughter who walked away, maybe he'll back off. And if he doesn't, then at least we'll know what we're really dealing with."
Yes.
Before Damien could respond, Emma appeared in the doorway, her small face pale with exhaustion. "Vicky!"
Oh.
Victoria's heart broke. She knelt down too. Emma's level. "Why would you think that, sweetheart?" "Because everyone always leaves when there's trouble. Mommy left, Sophia left, and now there's trouble again." Victoria pulled the little girl into her arms. "I'm not going anywhere, Emma. I promise." But even as she said the words, Victoria knew she might not be able to keep that promise. The events of the evening had changed everything, and she was about to make a choice that would determine not just her future, but the future of everyone she had come to love. "Damien," she said quietly, "I need to make a phone call." "Victoria, please. There has to be another way." "There's no other way. Not if we want to protect Emma. Not if we want to protect what we've built." She looked at him, seeing the love and fear warring in his eyes. "Do you trust me? With my life? Then trust me with this." As Victoria headed toward the study too. Make the call that would change everything. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to walk into a trap. But for Emma, for Damien, for the possibility of a future together, she was willing to risk everything. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a familiar voice answered, cold and calculating. "Hello, Victoria. I was wondering when you'd call." The truth revealed, "Hello, Dad." Victoria's voice was steady despite the tremor in her hands. "We need to talk, do we? I thought you'd made your position quite clear 2 years ago. Something about wanting nothing to do with the family business?"
Yes.
"Isn't about the business. It's about the fact that someone broke into the Cross Mansion tonight, looking for information about me." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "How unfortunate. I trust everyone is safe." "Cut the act, Dad. I know you're trying to acquire Cross Technologies. I know you think I'm some kind of inside source. But I'm not, and I need you to. Back off before someone gets hurt." "Victoria, my dear, you always were too idealistic. But I'm afraid you've overestimated your importance in this situation." "What do you mean?" "I mean that while I am indeed interested in acquiring Cross Technologies, I don't need you to do it. In fact, your presence there has been rather inconvenient." Victoria's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about? Do you really think it was coincidence that you were hired? That Damien Cross, one of the most paranoid men in the business world, would hire Charles Sterling's daughter to care for his most precious possession without thoroughly vetting her? You're saying he hired me because of you? I'm saying he hired you because I made sure he knew exactly who you were. I needed him. Distracted, worried about what you might be reporting back to me, I needed him to make mistakes." Victoria felt the room spin around her. "You used me. You used Emma. I used an opportunity. Your self-righteous exit from Sterling Industries was actually quite helpful. It gave you credibility as someone who had rejected the family business. It's perfect cover for a long-term operation. Except I wasn't operating for you. I had no idea about any of this." "Of course you didn't. That's what made it so perfect. Your genuine ignorance was completely convincing." Victoria's mind raced. "The break-in tonight, that was you too." "That was my business partner growing impatient. He wanted to see if you'd gathered any useful intelligence. Told him you were too principled to be any help, but he insisted on checking." "Your business partner? Someone who has just as much interest in seeing Cross Technologies fail as I do? Someone who's been very patient but is now ready to move to the next phase?" "Who? Why don't you ask your employer? I'm sure he can tell you all about James Fletcher's motivations." Victoria's heart stopped. James Fletcher, the distinguished older man she'd charmed at the Gala. It's one of Damien's most trusted investors. "You're lying, am I?" "Ask yourself this, Victoria. How did Fletcher know to approach you tonight? How did he know exactly which topics would showcase your expertise? And why did he seem so interested in keeping you talking while Damien was pulled away?" The phone went dead. Victoria stared at it for a moment, then rushed back to the living room where Damien was still coordinating with the police. "We need to talk," she said urgently. "Now." Damien looked up, seeing the panic in her eyes. "What happened? James Fletcher?" "Tell me about James Fletcher. He's one of our oldest investors. He's been with the company since the beginning." "Why? Because he's working with my father?" Damien's face went white. "That's impossible. My father just told me. Fletcher's been feeding him information, helping him target your weaknesses. Tonight at the Gala, he was pumping me for information while making it look like casual conversation. But James has been like a father to me. He's the one who gave me my first major investment. He's been playing a very long game." Victoria's phone buzzed with a text message. She looked at it and felt the blood drain from her face. "What is it?" Damien asked. "It's from Fletcher. He wants to meet tomorrow morning. Says he has information about who's really behind the acquisition attempts. It's a trap, of course. It's a trap, but it's also our only chance to end this." "Victoria, no. I won't let you walk into danger. You don't get to let me do anything, Damien. This is my choice. Then I'm coming with you." That's exactly what he's expecting. Wants both of us there. He wants to finish this. Victoria looked at Emma, who had fallen asleep on the couch, her small hand still clutching her favorite stuffed animal. "I won't let her grow up in this world of corporate warfare and betrayal. I won't let her lose another person she loves because of business. Then we disappear. Tonight, all of us. We take Emma and we disappear. Spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders. No, I'm done running, Damien. From my father, from my past, from the truth about who I am. And who are you? Victoria looked at him, seeing the love and fear in his eyes. I'm the woman who loves you. I'm the woman who will protect Emma with her life. And I'm Charles Sterling's daughter, which means I know exactly how ruthless these people can be. Victoria, I'm going to meet Fletcher. But I'm not going alone, and I'm not going unarmed. What do you mean? I mean, it's time to fight fire with fire. My father taught me everything I know about corporate warfare. It's time I put that education to use. The next morning, Victoria walked into the upscale cafe where Fletcher had requested they meet. She wore a simple black dress and carried a briefcase. Looking every inch the corporate executive she'd once been, Fletcher was already there, looking distinguished and grandfatherly. He rose to greet her with a smile. Victoria, thank you for coming. I was so worried when I heard about the break-in. Were you? Victoria sat down, placing the briefcase on the table. Worried enough to orchestrate it? Fletcher's smile faltered slightly. I'm not sure what you mean. I know you're working with my father. I know you've been feeding him information about Cross Technologies, and I know you want something from me. What I want, my dear, is to prevent a very ugly situation from getting worse. By destroying the company Damien built. By saving it from your father's inevitable takeover. Charles Sterling doesn't just want to acquire Cross Technologies, Victoria. He wants to destroy it, to strip it for parts and sell off the pieces. Victoria felt a chill. And your solution is a merger, a partnership between Sterling Industries and Cross Technologies, with me as the intermediary. Everyone wins. Except Damien loses control of his company. Damien gets to keep his company alive. And you get to go home to your family business, where you belong. Victoria opened her briefcase and pulled out a file. Interesting proposition. But I have a counteroffer. She slid the file across the table. Fletcher opened it, and his face went pale. You see, Mr. Fletcher, you're not the only one who's been gathering information. Those documents detail every illegal stock manipulation, every bribery attempt, every SEC violation you and my father have committed in the past 6 months. This is impossible. Where did you get this? From someone who's been watching both of you very carefully, someone who's been 3 steps ahead of you this entire time. Who? The cafe door opened, and Damien walked in, followed by 2 men in dark suits. FBI, Victoria said quietly. Mr. Fletcher, you're under arrest for securities fraud, corporate espionage, and attempted extortion. As Fletcher was led away in handcuffs, Victoria felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It's over, Damien confirmed. Your father's been arrested too. The evidence you helped us gather was enough to shut down the entire operation. I helped you gather? Victoria, did you really think I'd let you walk into danger alone? Every conversation you had with your father was recorded. Every meeting with Fletcher was monitored. You were never in real danger. Victoria stared at him. You used me too. I protected you. There's a difference, is there? How do I know any of this is real? How do I know you didn't orchestrate this whole thing just like my father did? Damien's expression softened. Because of this, he pulled out his phone and showed her a video. It was Emma recorded that morning, sitting in her pajamas with her stuffed animal. Tell Vicky what you told me, Damien's voice said from the phone. I want Vicky to stay forever and ever, Emma? Said seriously. I want her to be my new mommy. I want Daddy to be happy like he is when she's here. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Damien, I fell in love with you before I knew who your father was. I hired you because Emma needed you and I needed you. Everything else was just noise. And now I'm asking you to stay, not as Emma's nanny, not as part of some corporate strategy, but as the woman I love, as the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. Victoria looked around the cafe, at the remnants of the corporate warfare that had defined her life for so long. Then she looked at Damien, seeing the hope and vulnerability in his eyes. I need to know something first, she said. That night at the gala, when you said you needed someone you could trust, did you mean it? Every word. Then trust me with this. I don't want to be Victoria Sterling anymore. I don't want to be defined by my father's sins or my own past mistakes. I want to be just Victoria. Emma's Vicky. The woman who loves you both. and Cross Technologies will thrive without the shadow of corporate manipulation hanging over it. You've built something beautiful, Damien, something that matters. I'd be honored to help you protect it. 3 months later, Victoria stood in the same marble kitchen where this all began, but everything had changed. She was no longer the nanny hiding from her past, but Damien's partner in every sense of the word. The engagement ring on her finger caught the morning light as she helped Emma with her breakfast. "Vicky," Emma said, looking up from her cereal, "are you really going to be my mommy? If you'll have me, sweetheart, forever and ever?" Forever and ever. Damien appeared in the doorway, but this time his expression was soft, content. "Ready for the board meeting?" Victoria nodded. Today, she would officially join Cross Technologies as Vice President of Strategic Development. It was a position she'd earned through her own merit, not through family connections or corporate manipulation. "Together?" Damien asked, extending his hand. "Together," Victoria agreed, taking his hand in hers as they walked toward the door. Emma called out, "Bring me back a present." "What kind of present?" Victoria asked. "A baby brother?" Ouch. Victoria and Damien exchanged glances and laughed. "We'll see what we can do," Damien said, walking out into the bright morning sunshine. Victoria felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in years. She had found her place in the world, not as Charles Sterling's daughter or as someone running from her past, but as herself. She had found love, family, and purpose. The corporate world would always have its battles, its betrayals, its complex games of power and manipulation. But now, Victoria faced that world with something she'd never had before: a partner who truly saw her, a child who loved her unconditionally, and the confidence that came from knowing she was exactly where she belonged. The past was behind her. The future stretched ahead, full of possibility and promise. And for the first time in her life, Victoria Sterling was exactly who she wanted to be. The end.